Holly Taylor, you play Paige Jennings in The Americans, which just recently ended its fifth season. And this season was especially heavy for Paige. She's still coping with the knowledge that her parents are spies, and she isn't even entirely sure of who she really is anymore, it seems. How is it to take, this character from, more typical teenage concerns that she previously had to someone with this deep kind of personal crisis of identity and her entire family?
Yeah, I think it was kind of challenging because a lot of people in television shows, they kind of see the teenager character and immediately they're like, oh, I hate them, you know? It's people kind of just have that stigma that goes along with them. So it's always kind of been my goal to make Paige a likable teenager and to make sure that people really understand where she's coming from, because she does have a really hard life and it's a lot harder than the average teenager, but still people can relate to her. So I think that that's also what the whole show is about, these like really broad, like hard to wrap your head around concepts, but at the same time, when you break them down, they can be quite relatable to the audience.
Now, is it tough to shake off that kind of emotional intensity after shooting, like if it's been an especially tough scene or an emotional episode?
Yeah, definitely. I think that maybe season 3 or 4, when my character really started building more and she kept getting more and more emotional, it felt like I was crying every day at work. And I go to like regular high school in the mix of it. So going to school the next day after I was just crying for 12 hours and doing that all the time kind of got to me a little, but it was a good learning lesson because that's part of the job. So you just have to be able, like kind of just be like a switch, turn it off and on.
How did this season, season five, compare in terms of, since you did have that experience in the last two seasons as Paige was coming more into her own as a character and becoming more emotional? Was this an easier season to kind of process all of those emotions, in a scene and then in your day-to-day life?
Yeah, I think it definitely was. It was a bit easier. It was a little less on the crying per se, but it was still very heightened with the emotions of it. Like I had the breakup scene, and there's just always so much deep emotion in every scene of this show because I feel like everyone's always walking on eggshells. So I'm glad that I've learned now how to separate it from my real life.
Yeah, and there, this season there were some tough scenes for Paige, including that breakup scene, scene late in the season where she's asking her parents, who the Jennings really were, where the name came from, and then the episode they find her, she's been sleeping in her closet because of, the anxiety. Was there a particular scene or episode that was especially challenging this season?
I think that probably the episode where I had to ask them like who the Jennings are and stuff, because I feel like scenes like that, I always have to take a step back after I read the script and realize that I watch the show and I read the script, so I know who the Jennings are and how all of this happened, but Paige doesn't. And I really have to keep that in mind when I'm thinking about these scenes and how to play them. And also because, like I said, it's not so much of the crying and the screaming and like fights with the family. It's those like really quiet moments where it's mostly just facial expressions or just like subtle mannerisms that really are more important. And I believe a lot of times that less is more. So I really love those scenes where you can kind of show a lot with just a little bit, but they're definitely more challenging, I think.
Now, in addition to all of that, Paige started training with her mother to learn how to fight, and those scenes are both physical as well as emotional, as you mentioned. Those sort of quieter, unspoken interactions are in that scene as well. What was it like shooting all those training scenes?
It was so fun. It was hard though. We really trained a lot. It was a very legitimate process. They had us actually doing like real sistema, which is what the KGB would have used instead of just like pulling out Karate Kid moves. And it was really challenging because when you watch movies and stuff about martial arts, you never see this form of it in sistema on television, and it's a very unique style. So we were really worried that like people wouldn't grasp it or they would think that we looked like idiots the whole time. So we really wanted to make sure that we knew what we were doing for it. But it was still so much fun. I love that.
And Elizabeth started training Paige in order to help her cope after they were both attacked, and that was a very traumatic experience for Paige. Do you think that was really helping her?
I think so. I feel like Paige really wanted to take action. I mean, we've seen her take action in the past. She used to protest in the beginning of the series. And I think that to her, actually like getting up out of bed and doing something about it and being like, well, if this happens again, now I have these tools that I can use to protect myself. I think that not only helped her physically, but it really, if anything, helped her more mentally. And I think that would help me too. I feel like if I were attacked, I mean, I'm a big supporter on self-defense classes, and I just took my boxing class this morning. So, you know, always got to be prepared for anything, unfortunately.
Well, I mean, the good news is, for wherever your career takes you, you have the fight training. You'll be able to have that on your resume.
Definitely, I'm very excited about that.
So if they're ever casting the next Karate Kid, then you're a shoo-in.
Exactly. That's what I'm trying to put it out there. Maybe Jackie Chan will call me up or something. I could be his stunt double.
Now, when it comes to the spy mission for Paige's parents, Elizabeth seems like the more zealous one, willing to do whatever it takes, while Philip is, seems much more sensitive, and the work really takes a toll on him psychologically. And a lot of the conflict between them over Paige is can she handle this world? Can she not? Do you think she takes after her mother or her father more?
I think that maybe at first I would have said she takes after her father more because she has been quite sensitive in the past. But I think that now she's getting a lot stronger, and I'm really proud of her because she is a lot like Elizabeth. And I love seeing that in any TV show, but I'm super proud to be part of a TV show where, there's two women who are so strong and can defend themselves, and they know what they believe in, and they don't let people change that very easily. So I'm just really proud to be part of that, but also just proud of Paige.
Another big change for Paige was, her relationship with Pastor Tim continued to be strained and pretty much past its breaking point, which he read in his journal, what he thinks about her and what her parents, how they've affected her. Do you think she was more upset about reading those negative things about her parents, or more about maybe the idea that maybe he was right about what her parents had really been doing to her?
Yeah, I think that was probably confusing for her, because I think that at first she probably thought the same thing about her parents. And, she was always being told, like, no, that's not what it's like. Like, we're not monsters. It's not that way. And so I think it was kind of, in a way, like a strange relief for her to see that someone else agreed with her. But at the same time, she's kind of starting to be more compassionate towards her parents. So I think that it's also weird to see somebody thinks that about the people who have raised you, that you love. So it's probably a very conflicting thing to see.
There's an interesting moment towards the end of the season where Pastor Tim is getting a job overseas to sort of get him out of the picture, and Paige throws away her cross, and Elizabeth gets it out of the trash and gives it back to her. And part of me was thinking, oh, she wants her to keep this little part of her faith, but no, it's just you need to maintain your cover to until he leaves. What did you think about the emotions of that scene?
Yeah, I think that scene was kind of bringing it back to the harsh reality of Elizabeth and Philip's job. It's like any time that you think that Elizabeth is starting to, warm up and, be a little more maternal, she brings it right back in. And she's like, job first, like you have to do this. Unfortunately, you wanted to know the truth. And so now you have to deal with the truth, and you have to carry that with you wherever you go. So it was kind of sad when I read it. I wasn't expecting it at all. I thought they'd be so proud and they'd be like, oh my God, yes, she finally threw out the cross. But nope.
One of the challenges for Paige has been, trying to, deal with trying to have some kind of life of her own while keeping the secret, and of course her relationship with Stan's son. Was that entirely? Do you feel like that was all her really wanting him as a boyfriend, or do you think there was a part of her that thought, oh, if I stay close to him, maybe I'll find things out that could keep my parents safe?
At first, I really wanted it to be that she was staying close to him so she could get information from him. So that's how I was playing it when it first began. But then the writers and creators and all the magical people up there, they told me that they wanted it to be like Paige really liked him. And in the end, it did make it a lot more heartbreaking because it's like everything that Paige finds that she enjoys, her parents are like, nope, you can't have that, you know? So it definitely made it more heartbreaking, and I understand why they went that route with it. But I was hoping that she was just using him. That sounds really messed up, but like I wanted Paige to be a spy.
Well, there's still a season to go, so you never know where she might yet start into that spy game. Do you think that would be a possibility for her at this point, or do you think that that's too much for her?
I mean, I think that I've been surprised every season with what they've given Paige. I mean, I've always been saying since season one that I wanted to do fight training, and I never thought they would let me do that. So for that to even come to fruition was crazy. So I just like, I don't know. I don't know what to expect, but I think that Paige could be a spy now. I think that she's really starting to listen to her parents more and understand them, and she is doing the fight training. So I don't know. I think it's possible, but I don't want to jinx it.
Paige was also obviously having a tough time, as right after her parents told her, and this season she's still having a tough time, but was getting better at being more careful and more secretive. Do you think there would ever be a scenario where she might actually turn in her parents to the authorities, or maybe Stan, the FBI agent next door?
I think that I mean, like I said, I'd never know what they're going to write, so I could be completely wrong. But I like to think that Paige has learned her lesson by telling Pastor Tim, because that did not end very well. I mean, it could have ended a lot worse. Luckily, Pastor Tim is still alive somehow. We all don't know how that happened. But I mean, people could have died. So I think that she realizes the weight of the secret that she bears and how big of a deal that it is. So I hope that she'll contain it.
Now, towards the end of the season, Elizabeth and Philip were considering kind of retiring and taking the whole family back to Russia, and Paige didn't know any of that at the time, and they didn't end up making that decision to go. Do you think? How do you think Paige would have handled that kind of a move to Russia if that was where it came to?
I think that as any teenager probably feels when they're moving, whether it be from a town or a state, never mind a country, I think that it would be very, very shocking for her, very hard to comprehend. But at the same time, they don't really show her with any friends here. And she just kind of broke off her relationship with her one friend who was her pastor. So I feel like she doesn't really have too much to lose. And she does like to take care of Henry. So I think that she would kind of take on the role of being the stone-faced, strong one and, stick it out so that everyone else could get through it. But it would definitely be so hard. I wouldn't want to do that.
Yeah, and it's funny. Elizabeth and Philip were thinking, do we tell them in advance? Do we tell them when we get there? Given how much Paige already knows, the idea that they could take the family on a trip to Europe and she wouldn't figure out something's up, she would catch on to that immediately. Do you think?
Yeah, I think so. I think that Paige is, even before she knew anything, was always very suspicious of every move they made. So I think that them trying to do that, like, she just always knows that something's up at this point, and it would be very hard for them to lie to her that way.
Now, next season will be the last for the Americans. Do you know? Not to reveal anything, of course, but is there anything that they tell you about in any sort of broad outlines of what you're going to expect when the next season comes around?
Not at all. I have the boring answer that they don't tell me anything, but seriously, they're even from episode to episode, like during the season, they won't tell you what's going on. So I have no idea what to expect going back. And it kind of makes it more fun, but at the same time, like, I feel like I'm the audience as well. Like, I have to wait until next season to figure out everything.
Do you know when you'll start seeing scripts or start filming again?
Hopefully in like late September, early October. And we usually start shooting around mid-October sometime.
You mentioned wanting to Paige to train to fight all this time, and you got that wish this season. Is there anything specific that you would personally love to see from Paige's story in the next and final season?
Yes, I would love for her to not be wearing a ponytail every scene. I think that's one of my big wishes for her. It was every episode this season, I would sit in hair and makeup trailer, and we would all just like look at me and like shake my head and like put the ponytail in, and we were all trying so hard to get the ponytail out because that was my depressed hair. That's what it was. They're like, oh, well, Paige is sad, so she has to stay in her ponytail. So, but I'm hoping that next season she flourishes a little and lets her hair down.
Or full on buzz cut. Just go for it.
No, definitely not. That would be way worse. I would rather the ponytail.
With the show coming to an end soon, do you have any plans or ideas about what would come next for you, like opportunities or any future roles that you're already thinking about or interested in?
I mean, I never really know. I'm just excited to do anything. I hope that I get hired again after this because you never know. But I don't know. I just have to see what comes and go with the flow. It's so hard to plan anything in this business. So everything's very last minute and unpredictable. So just have to kind of hope that works out somehow.
Having worked on the show now for five seasons and going into a sixth, what's the thing that you think will be the hardest to say goodbye to once all is said and done?
I think just the cast and the schedule of it and having something to do and go back to after the summer. It's kind of like school. I just graduated high school last year, and it's so weird, like when the summer ends and you don't go back to see all those same friends and stuff. So it's pretty much the same thing. I mean, everyone's so nice, and we've gotten closer because it's going to be 6 years by the end of the series. So I think it'll be weird not to see everyone all the time, but everyone will go their happy separate ways, and hopefully we'll do a reunion in 20 years or something.
Well, in this day and age, you never know. I mean, we've seen everything from Gilmore Girls to Twin Peaks to the X-Files. The end is never the end on TV these days.
Exactly. We could do a catch-up version and meet them like in current day or something. I don't know. I want that for Friends. I'm still rooting for it.
Or find out that Paige grows up to be a spy who is maybe blackmailing Donald Trump. That would be.
Exactly. Yeah. It definitely could work. I'm just saying. It's a great idea.
Well, I want to congratulate you on this season and every season so far of The Americans and the next one to come, of course, and everything that comes after that. I look forward to great things. Thank you so much for talking to me today.
Thanks so much. Nice to talk to you.